Good evening. Please be aware that the first hour and a half of this meeting will be recorded so that we can put it onto our website, our podcast, and our YouTube channel. We record in audio only. Feel free to use the podcast on our website along with your big book as a resource if you missed the study portion of the meeting. The study portion is also listed on the website so that you can follow along. Tonight's recap will start on page 93 when dealing with such a person and end on page 95. You will do anything to help. And our study tonight will start on page 95 if he is not interested and will end on page 97 in a family. And do we have any announcements?
We do, and everything that Trish just said will be getting reposted in chat, so any doubt as to what we're reading, that's where it will be. Hi family, my name's Jamie, very grateful recovered alcoholic. On October 13th at 5:30 p.m. Central Time, we will be having a trusted servants meeting for those who are trusted servants of this group. And on the Monday night, the 21st, we will be having a group conscience at 6:30 Central Time before we go into assembly next month. If you're not a home group member, but you like what we have to offer in this group, you are more than welcome to make it your online home group. And that just means that you will have a voice. You will have a voice in what we take to service assemblies and have a voice in Alcoholics Anonymous as a whole. If you're not a home group member, you're more than welcome to come and observe and see how our group operates, and that might make you want to become a home group member. However, if you're not a home group member, you won't have a vote, and that's just the way that we work. So if you'd like to become a home group member, just send Trish a message and we will get you added to the list. And that's what I have for announcements. So, oh, this is still my part.
Yes,
Hi.
it is.
And I'm still a recovered alcoholic, and my name is Jamie. Welcome to the Lewisburg Primary Purpose Big Book Study Group. To prepare for our Big Book study, let's get focused by having a 3-minute moment of meditation followed by our family's fog light prayer.
I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Trish. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to start the meditation in a minute, so please take a moment to get situated.
Please be aware of background noises when you are unmuted, and sharing is to not distract others or possibly yourself. We suggest that we all observe proper Zoom etiquette. If you wouldn't do it in a live meeting, please don't do it here. And just a friendly reminder that absence of profanity offends no one. Please keep yourself muted during someone else's share, and we will call on you in the order that hands are raised.
From the forward to the first edition of our book, Alcoholics Anonymous. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are many thousands of men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book and of this group.
For the meditation, some suggestions are: focus on your breath and posture, and breathe in God and breathe out self.
Take this time to reconnect with God. Let the craziness of the day drift away and ask God to help you focus on the study.
And let's bring in the monks to do what the monks do so well. So enjoy your time with God, folks. those of you who would like to, join us in our family's fog light prayer. It is on your screen in front of you. God, let your love shine through us like a fog light, so that those that are lost, sick, and dying can find your love
through us. Amen.
And let's have our secretary's report. Come on in, Lisa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lisa, and I'm your recovered alcoholic secretary. I've asked Art to read the recovered statement. We read this notice to explain why many people in this group identify as recovered rather than recovering, and what it exactly means to be a recovered alcoholic. Take it away, Art.
Hello everybody, my name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic, and this is our recovered statement. We are not cured of alcoholism. Recovered but not cured. That presents a conflict to some alcoholics. If we were cured, we would be able to drink responsibly. No, we are not cured. The allergic reaction to alcohol will remain with us for a lifetime. But we have been restored to sanity. That was the problem. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. Page 23. We are now sane where alcohol is concerned. Consequently, we have recovered.
Thank you, Art. Thank you for joining us tonight. We meet every Tuesday night at 5:30 p.m. Central Time with the Gerbil Fellowship Cage, where we chatter for an hour before the start of the meeting. Feel free to bring side dishes to share with the buzzards. Our Big Book study starts promptly at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and we ask that you be courteous and ready to begin at the sound of the foghorn. We take our Big Book study seriously. Because of this, chat will be disabled during the study. In the 1940s, when the only elements to sobriety were God, a big book, and one recovered alcoholic working with an untreated alcoholic, the success rate was as follows. From the foreword to the second edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, page XX, of alcoholics who came to AA and really tried, 50% got sober at once and remained that way. 25% sobered up after some relapsed, and the remainder, those who stayed on with AA, showed improvement. Can we have a show of hands of people joining us for the first time?
We've got a couple out there. We got Grandpa Dill, and we have Kayla, and we have Lonnie joining us, and I believe Jay as well. Welcome all. Glad to have you with us.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. It's my second time.
Thanks for coming back.
Welcome.
And then the recovered alcoholics? These are your potential sponsors. Is anyone celebrating a milestone this week?
Janet is. Unmute, Janet. What do you got?
What do I got? I've got 9 months.
Congratulations.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Trish is working on a chip for you.
Thank you, Trish.
And here it comes.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations, my friend.
Anyone else?
Doesn't look like it, Lisa.
Hold on. Here we are. If you should require a big book of your own, we have large print editions available that can be sent to you by buzzard mail. Delivery time questionable. Please remember to practice our 7th tradition by donating to the group address, Venmo, or PayPal posted in the chat and on the screen. Our suggestion is to purchase a big book and take an untreated alcoholic through the program of recovery. Please visit our website, posted in the chat. Thank you, and see you next week.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for your service tonight. Art, thank you for your service as well. From Chapter 2, there is a solution. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. We have a way out on which we can absolutely agree and upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism.
This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you need not identify yourself nor your reason for being here if you do not wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours.
While this is an open meeting, membership in this group is limited to those who wish to recover from alcoholism and have a desire to stop drinking for good and all. Each member of Alcoholics Anonymous is a potential sponsor of a new member and should clearly recognize the obligations and duties of such a responsibility.
Before we begin our study of the Big Book, last weekend we reviewed Tradition 10. Tonight, let's take a quick look at Tradition 11. Please refer to page 562 in our book, Alcoholics Anonymous. And come on in, Kenny.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Kenny. I'm an alcoholic. Tonight, we're going to go over Tradition 11. The short form of Tradition 11 is our public relation policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. And if we look at the long form, says our relation with the general public should be characterized by personal anonymity. We think AA ought to avoid sensational advertising. Our name and pictures as AA members ought not be broadcast, filmed, publicly printed. Our public relation policy should be guided by a principle of attraction rather than promotion. There is never need to praise ourselves. We feel it is better to let our friends recommend us. And when I thought about it, it makes good sense. I remember seeing some movie stars who I won't name say they were members of AA and they would fall off the wagon. People who were not AA members would judge, oh, AA don't work, and AA does work. When I was reading on the tradition, they said there was a time when the press, through anonymity, and AA was better off. Thought AA was better off. Some of us, some of our own members, they thought that we should maintain personal anonymity. While some of the members were breaking their anonymity, they thought that anonymity was old, and was like horse and buggy, was outdated. But we didn't stay with that. We found out that by letting the press and letting everybody else, letting our friends, because they became friends, promote us, it kept AA grounded, and it helped us to grow. And if a person start doing like a politician does, going out there publicizing, trying to get votes, that kind of weakens it. That kind of weakens what God does, because this is a God-given program. I believe we do work, but we work doing the program, and God makes it work. That's why it's a spiritual program. Not because I did anything great other than not pick up and work the steps, but I learned to be God reliant. I learned from my sponsor to have a higher power guide me. and not to assume that I know what's right and what's wrong, but through these principles, and we all guided by principles. I remain sober, and we remain strong as an AA group, and as a whole overall. If we are guided by anonymity, the preceding tradition will speak more on that, and I'll get to that next week. But the the 10th tradition also talked about uh, keeping to our right side, because as human beings, we want to be we want to stand out, we want to be different. But if you're in here, you're just a common variety alcoholic. You know, we have the same disease, same cure, and as long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those would tear us apart or would be well. And I believe that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Excellent job. Thank you for doing service, and we look forward to hearing from you next week for Tradition 12. And now it's time for our weekly segment of That Ain't in the Book. We hear a lot of stuff said in meetings that can't be reconciled with the program as described in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So here's one of those things that we often hear people say at the tables. Keep coming back. Eventually it'll rub off on you. And Stephanie is going to come in and share with us what it actually has to say in the book on page 64 in the first paragraph. Welcome, Steph.
Thank you, Jamie. Stephanie, recovered, grateful alcoholic. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless at once followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which have been blocking us.
Thank you, Steph.
Thank you, Steph.
As we study, please make use of the pens, highlighters, and rulers so that you can share this experience with another alcoholic.
You know, in order for us to stay focused as we study the Big Book, we use the Big Book study guide prepared by Joe and Charlie and Krusty Clip of the Dallas Primary Purpose Group.
Okay, tonight we're going to start our recap on page 93, which will be read tonight by Nancy, followed by our study portion read by Donald. After the page is read, we will ask questions from the imaginary podium, starting back at our study portion read by Donald. The answers will be one sentence unless otherwise specified, and multi-part questions are simply a one-sentence answer split up by commas, semicolons, hyphens, and other fun bits of punctuation.
Basically, in English, what that means is that we are going to read the material once through and then dissect the information a second time through the question and answer format. Notice how the language in the questions gives us a new light in which to consider the studied material.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we've completed the study, we open up for comment, questions, and observations based on what was just read. If you have spiritual experiences with this information, you are free to share. Please keep your share on topic and under 5 minutes. At the 5-minute mark, you may see a puppy jump up in one of the squares to let you know that your time is finished.
This is important because hearing the question and rereading the content offers a definite way of comprehending the material covered. After we have completed the study, we open for comment, questions, observations based on what was just read. And if you have spiritual experiences with this information, please, by all means, feel free to share. Please, did you just read that? Yes, you did.
I did. Finish it out. It's a good paragraph. We'll read it. We'll repeat it.
Hey, it's okay. I'll go to this. I was answering somebody in chat. However, Big Book study is not therapy. Should you begin sharing on topics which are more appropriately discussed in a different setting, for example, with your sponsor, Please do not be offended when we cut that conversation short and send the buzzards nipping at your heels. For that purpose, we have fellowship meetings before and after our study time.
You can never go wrong by commenting on the pages studied, which brings us to the words of one of the co-founders of Alcoholics Anonymous. Sobriety, freedom from alcohol, through the teaching and practice of the 12 steps, is the sole purpose of any Alcoholics Anonymous group.
And how we arrived at this point. We didn't just wake up today and say, well, we're going to study pages 95 to 97 in the big book tonight. This meeting started here in my home January 7th, 2020, so we're coming up on a 5-year anniversary of it as a bricks and mortar meeting. And it started with myself and 12 other people. And then, of course, we had this wonderful little pandemic called COVID, and we entered the virtual world. And the way this book study works is everything that we do tonight, we do from the title page of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, starting with the first promise, which is the story of how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. We go through the preface, the forewords, all through this question format. The doctor's opinion, which tells us all about our disease and gives us the 3 aspects of our disease, the spiritual malady, the mental obsession, and the phenomenon of craving through the allergy. Then we get the classic 12-step call from Bill's story himself. From there we move into chapter 2, there is a solution, and they present that there is a solution for our problem, alcoholism. Then we move into chapter 3, which more about alcoholism, which is all about the mental obsession and untreated alcoholism. Then we move into the God chapter, the chapter to the agnostics. And the way I always like to describe that, whether you come from faith, whether you don't have faith, whether you're mad, angry at God, whatever it may be, is that it becomes a pathway to help us let go of old ideas and old beliefs and open our hearts and mind to new ideas and new beliefs, so that when we get to step 3, we can find a God that will work for us, and yours doesn't have to look like mine. Chapter 5 tells us how to do 2 things and 2 things only, how to take steps 3 and 4, and it gives us the prayers we'll use, the actions we'll take, and show us the promises that result from those prayers and actions. Chapter 6, into action, will take us in 16 short pages through 7 steps in their entirety. And then we start moving into the pre-Al-Anon chapters, or actually into working with, not working with others. We move into the next chapter. Oh yeah, working with others, which is what we happen to be in. Brain's a little scrambled today, folks, sorry. And this gives us the guidelines of how to 12-step another alcoholic, how sponsorship should work. And instead of telling them what we should do, what they should do, we show them what we did. Then we move into the pre-Al-Anon chapters to wives, the family afterward, and to the employers. And we finally move into our final chapter, A Vision for You, which is a gift from God. 3 times throughout this study, because of the asterisks on the pages in the book, we are directed to go to the spiritual experience, and we visit the spiritual experience 3 times with the question and answer format. We do 8 weeks of Dr. Bob's story, 2 weeks of the traditions through the same format, and a final standalone week of the spiritual experience, because it's kind of important to recognize whether or not we're having one. And then we circle back around and we start the next 94 weeks with week 0 all over again. And that's how we got here.
Thank you, Jamie. Before we start the recap, we will need 5 or 6 virtual hands raised if you would like to be one of our answer readers. And please remember that the first hour and a half of our meeting will be recorded so that we can put it on our podcast, our website, and on our YouTube channel. So, Nancy, come on in with our recap, please, and we will be starting that on page 93.
Nancy, alcoholic. When dealing such a person, you had better use everyday language to describe spiritual principles. There is no use arousing any prejudice he may have against certain theological terms and conceptions about which he may already be confused. Don't raise such issues, no matter what your own convictions are. Your prospect may belong to a religious denomination. His religious education and training may be far superior to yours. In that case, he is going to wonder how you can add anything to what he already knows. But he will be curious to learn why his own convictions had not worked and why yours seem to work so well. He may be an example of the truth that faith alone is insufficient. To be vital, faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfishness, constructive action. Let him see that you are not there to instruct him in religion. Admit that he probably knows more about it than you do, but call to his attention the fact that however deep his faith and knowledge, he could not have applied it, or he would not think. Perhaps your story will help him see where he has failed to practice the very precepts he knows so well. We represent no particular faith or denomination. We are dealing only with general principles common to most denominations. Outline the problem of action, explaining how you made it self-sacrifice, how you straightened out your past, and how you are now endeavoring to be helpful to him. It is important to him to realize that your attempt to pass this on to him plays a vital part in your own recovery. Actually, he may be helping you more than you are helping him. Make it plain he is under no obligation to you, that you hope only that he will try to help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties. Suggest how important it is that he place the welfare of other people ahead of his own. Make it clear that he is not under pressure, that he needn't see you again if he doesn't want to. You should not be offended if he wants to call it off, for he has helped you more than you have helped him. If your talk has been sane, quiet, and full of human understanding, you have perhaps made a friend. Maybe you have disturbed him about the questions of alcoholism. This is all to the good. The more hopeless he feels, the better. He will be more likely to follow your suggestions. Your candidate may give reasons why he need not follow all of the program. He may rebel at the thought of a drastic house cleaning, which requires discussion with other people. Do not contradict his views. Tell him you once felt as he does, but you doubt whether you would have made much progress had you not taken action. On your first visit, tell him about the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. If he shows interest, lend him your copy of this book. Unless your friend wants to talk further about himself, do not wear out your welcome. Give him a chance to think it over. If you do say stay, let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. Sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted to let him do so. This is sometimes a mistake. If he has trouble later, he is likely to say you rushed him. You will be most successful with alcoholics if you do not exhibit any passion for crusade or reform. Never talk down to an alcoholic from any moral or spiritual hilltop. Simply lay out the kit of spiritual tools for his inspection. Show him how they worked with you. Offer him friendship and fellowship. Tell him that if he wants to get well, you will do anything to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And we've got 4 hands up for answer readers. I could use one more, 2 if we want, or I can just go with the 4. And Donald, aka Grandpa Dill, can you come on in with our study for the night?
I'm Donald, the Grateful Alcoholic. Are you ready for this?
We are.
All right. If he is not interested in your solution, if he expects you to act only as a banker for his financial difficulties or a nurse for his sprees, you may have to drop him until he changes his mind. This he may do after he gets hurt some more. If he is sincerely interested and wants to see you again, ask him to read this book in the interval. After doing that, he must decide for himself whether he wants to go on. He should not be pushed or prodded by you, his wife, or his friends. If he is to find God, the desire must come from within. If he thinks he can do the job in some other way, or prefers some other spiritual approach, encourage him to follow his own conscience. We have no monopoly on God. We merely have an approach that worked for us. We'll point out that we alcoholics have much in common, and that you would like, in any case, to be friendly. Let it go after that. Do not be discouraged if your prospect does not respond at once. Search out another alcoholic and try again. You are sure to find someone desperate enough to accept with eagerness what you offer. We may find it a waste of time to keep chasing a man who cannot or will not work with you. If you leave such a person alone, he may soon become convinced that he cannot recover by himself. To spend too much time on any one situation is to deny some other alcoholic an opportunity to live and be happy. One of our fellowship failed entirely with this first half dozen prospects, or with his first half dozen prospects. He often says that he had continued to work on them, he might have deprived many others who have since recovered of their chance. Suppose now you are making your second visit to a man. He has read this volume and says he is prepared to go through the 12 steps of the program of recovery. Having had the experience yourself, you can give him much practical advice. Let him know you are available if he wishes to make a decision and tell his story. Do not insist upon it if he prefers to consult with someone else.
Thank you. So we're going to go back to the top of page 95, or the middle of 95, where Donald started reading, and answer the question. And I will ask the questions out of our script by Joe and Charlie. For our answer readers, please speak clearly into your microphones, and you may go ahead and unmute at this point. And the questions in our script come from Joe and Charlie and Krusty Cliff. The answers will be sentence by sentence, coming directly out of this week's study, beginning with the first sentence that Donald read and ending with the last one. And if those answering the questions lose their place, please allow me to direct them to where their correct place is, so we don't have 3 or 4 people all trying to talk at once. So our batting order tonight will be Linda, Nancy, Kenny, William, Steph, and Jay. So Linda, you get the first question, and that is...
Real quick, Nancy's still muted.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. So, Linda, if they are not interested in our program of recovery, what should we do?
If he is not interested in your solution, if he expects you to act only as a banker for his financial difficulties or a nurse for his sprees, you may have to drop him until he changes his mind.
Thank you. And Nancy, what may happen if we do and why?
This he may do after he gets hurt some more.
Thank you. Kenny, if they appear to be sincere, what do we ask them to do?
If he is sincerely interested and wants to see you again, ask him to read this book in the interview.
Thank you. William, after doing this, what must they do?
After doing that, he must decide for himself whether he want to go on.
Absolutely. And Steph, by all means, what should not be done?
He should not be pushed or prodded by you, his wife, or his friends.
Thank you so much. And Jay, to be successful in our program, what must happen within the prospect?
Oh, he has to find God to deserve must. He is to find God to deserve must come from within.
Thank you. Back to you, Linda. What do we do if they think there is a better way?
If he thinks he can do the job in some other way or prefers some other spiritual approach, encourage him to follow his own conscience.
Thank you. Nancy, do we have the only path of recovery?
We have no monopoly on God. We merely have an approach that worked with us.
Yes, we do. And Kenny, what should we point out to the alcoholic?
But point out that we alcoholics have much in common and that you would like, if any case, to be friendly.
Thank you. And
Trish,
William?
hang on. Hey, Trish, 1 second, please. You stopped everything short, and Donald didn't read all of it. So finish the questions to the point where he read, then have him come back in, read the rest of it, and go back to everybody and ask the final of the questions. We didn't read all the way to into 97.
Oh, you're right. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
There was another page.
I didn't scroll down when I got to the end of the page.
I was wondering why it was so short.
Yeah, me too.
That's
Yeah.
okay. That's the way we'll do it. Finish this round of questions. He'll come back in and read the rest of it, and then we'll go back to the questions and then open up for sharing. Thanks for bringing that to my attention, Donald.
Thank you. Okay, so point out that we alcoholics have much in common and you would like in any case to be friendly was our last sentence. And William, what do we do then?
Oh boy.
Let it?
Give me a. We have no monopoly, you know. Realize anything. Oh, okay. But what we alcoholics have is much in
Next
common,
sentence.
and then we will. Next sentence.
Next sentence, let it.
Bless you. Thank you.
Let it go.
Wait a minute. Be friendly to that. And you said the next sentence?
Yes.
Do not discourage you. Okay,
No,
I got
you're
you.
at let it
Do
go.
not be let it come?
Let it go.
Okay, I'll turn it back over. Oh, let it go. Let it go at that.
Thank you.
All right.
And Stephanie, should we be discouraged if they don't buy our program?
Do not be discouraged if your prospect does not respond at once.
Thank you. And Jay, what should we do?
Search out another alcoholic and try again.
And I will be coming in with the first of several comments. So here comes the first one. Where did we get the idea that we were to sit in meetings and wait for them to show up?
Linda, if you do, what will happen?
You are sure to find someone desperate enough to accept with eagerness what you offer.
Thank you. And Nancy, how do some of us waste our time?
We find it a waste of time to keep chasing a man who cannot or will not work with you.
Thank you. And Kenny, if we leave the slipper alone, what may happen?
Bless
If
you.
you leave such a person alone, he may soon become convinced that he cannot recover by himself.
Thank you. And William, why should we not spend too much time on one who will not follow directions?
To spend too much time on any one situation is to deny some other alcoholic an opportunity to live and be happy.
That's so true. Thank you. And Steph, was one of our fellowship lucky at 12 stepping efforts early on?
One of our fellowship failed entirely with his first half dozen prospects.
This person was Bill W.
And next is Jay. What did he say would have happened if he had kept wasting his time?
If he often says that he had continued to work with them, he might have deprived many others who have since recovered of their chances.
Thank you. And Linda, a two-part question. A, we are now going to make our second visit to our prospect. What have they done? And B, what are they ready to do? And you get 2 sentences, please.
Suppose now you're making your second visit to a man. He has read this volume and says he is prepared to go through with the 12 steps of the program of recovery.
And our next comment, where on earth would we come up with the don't drink and go to meetings, you'll be okay? Or worse yet, go to 90 meetings in 90 days. The authors of this basic text, very early in their sobriety, took the steps and recovered. They did not sit around and talk about them.
Thank you. And Nancy, why can you give your protege advice?
Having had the experience yourself, you can give him much practical advice.
Next comment, note that while the big book is based on experience and knowledge of its authors, we are now told that a sponsor should give his protege advice based on
You're muted.
Did you freeze?
Yeah. Internet. Yep.
Okay, so the rest of the comment. While the big book is based on the experience and knowledge of its authors, we are now told that a sponsor should give his protege advice based on his experience and knowledge. Only a person's sponsor has the privilege and responsibility to give advice. All others should limit their conversations to their own experience, strength, and hope. And Kenny, you get the next question, and it's also a two-part question. Do you let them know that you are available to help them if they are ready to take the steps? And B, what if they want to work with someone else?
Let him know you are available if he wishes to make a decision and tell his story. But do not insist upon it if he prefers to consult with someone else.
That's it. And my apologies, I lost internet for a moment. If we are dealing with a real alcoholic and have carefully followed the directions to this point, the prospect has already taken steps 1 and 2 as the result of your helping the person understand the exact nature of alcoholism. Step 1, since you have recovered, you are given them hope of step 2. This is exactly what Bill was able to do for Dr. Bob on the evening of May 12th, 1935.
And now Donald is going to come in with the rest of the reading that I inadvertently cut him short of earlier. So come on back in, Donald.
Okay, here we are. He may be broke and homeless. If he is, you might try to help him about getting a job or give him a little financial assistance. But you should not deprive your family or creditors of money they should have. Perhaps you will want to take the man into your home for a few days, but be sure to use discretion. Be certain he will be welcomed by your family and that he is not trying to impose upon you for money, connections, or shelter. Perhaps that and you only harm him. Oh, excuse me. Permit that and you only harm him. You will be making it possible for him to be insecure. You may be aiding in his destruction rather than his recovery. Never avoid these responsibilities, but be sure you are doing the right thing if you assume them. Helping others is the foundation stone of our recovery. A kindly act once in a while isn't enough. You have to act the Good Samaritan every day, if need be. It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep, great interference with your pleasures, interruptions in your business. It may mean sharing your money and your home, counseling frantic wives and relatives, innumerable trips to police courts, sanitariums, hospitals, jails, and asylums. Your telephone may jingle at any time of day or night. Your wife may sometimes say she is neglected. A drunk may smash the furniture in your home or burn a mattress. You may have to fight with him if he is violent. Sometimes you will have to call a doctor and administer sedatives under his direction. Another time you may have to send for the police or an ambulance. Occasionally, you will have to meet such conditions. We seldom allow an alcoholic to live in our homes for long at a time. If it is not good for him, and it sometimes creates serious complications in a family.
Thank you, Donald, and thank you for pointing out the fact that I shortened your service this evening. So, William, we are coming back to you, and you will be at He May Be Broke. Your question is, what if your prospect is broke or homeless? And you get 2 sentences. And you are muted.
Who did you call on, Trish?
William?
Um,
There he goes.
Me? Oh, okay. I thought we had finished. Wow.
You are at He May Be
Just
Broke and Homeless.
Pass on me this time because
Okay.
I thought we had finished.
Stephanie, you with us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What if your prospect is broke or homeless? 2 sentences, please.
He may be broke and homeless. If he is, you might try to help him about getting a job or give him a little financial assistance.
Thank you. And Jay, but we should not do what?
But you should not deprive your family or creditors of money they should have.
And Linda, we might be willing to do what?
Perhaps you will want to take the man into your house for a few days.
Thank you. And Nancy, but be sure to do what?
Be sure you use discretion.
Absolutely. And Kenny, be certain of what 2 very important considerations?
Boy, did I get lost.
Be certain he will be welcomed. Bottom of 97. Or bottom of 96.
96. But, all right, be certain he will be welcoming by your family and that he's not trying to impose upon you for money, connections, or shelter.
Thank you. And William, how can we hurt his chances?
I'm dropping out. I'm just going to listen up here. I'm dropping
Okay,
out.
thank
Thank you. Thank you.
Grandpa Dill, you had your hand up. Did you want to take that one? How can
Yeah.
we hurt his chances?
Permit that, and you may harm him.
Thank you. And Steph, we can make it possible for what?
You will be making it possible for him to be insincere.
Thank you. And Jay, if we provide too much physical and or material help to the newcomer, it may do what?
You may be aiding in his destruction rather than his recovery.
So true. Thank you. Linda, back to you. If we do provide material support, be sure of what?
Never avoid these responsibilities, but be sure you are doing the right thing if you assume them.
Thank you. And Nancy, why are we so anxious to help others?
Helping others is a foundation stone of your recovery.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Kenny, will helping only occasionally do it?
A kindly act once in a while isn't enough.
Thank you. And Donald, how often should we be willing to help others?
You have to act the Good Samaritan every day, if need be.
Thank you. And Stephanie, what inconveniences might this impose on us? And please finish the paragraph.
It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep, great interference with your pleasures, interruptions to your business. It may mean sharing your money and your home, counseling frantic wives or husbands and relatives, innumerable trips to police, courts, sanitariums, hospitals, jails, and asylums. Your telephone may jangle at any time of the day or night. Your wife may be sometimes say she is neglected. A drunk may smash the furniture in your home or burn a mattress. You may have to fight with him if he is violent. Sometimes you will have to call a doctor and administer sedatives under his direction. Another time you may have to send for the police or an ambulance. Occasionally you will have to meet such conditions.
Thanks so much, Steph. And Jay, what do we seldom do for the alcoholic?
We solely allow an alcoholic to live in our homes for long at a time.
Thank you. And Linda, our last question. What 2 reasons are stated for this?
It is not good for him, and it sometimes creates serious complications in a family.
Thank you so much. And again, folks, thank you for, I'm sorry for the confusion. So,
My fault too, Trish, because I didn't catch it.
if you have
They
experience
did,
with the
Governor.
portion of the book that was just read, please feel free to share. And please be mindful of your time and of that others may have their hands raised and are waiting to share. And a friendly reminder, absence of profanity offends no one. So we're now open for comments, questions, observations, and spiritual experiences based on what we just read. So who's going to jump in first tonight? I have no hands.
This is the second meditation portion.
It is. Hi, William.
My name is William Alcoholic. It's a second medication. I'm lost.
Come on in and share.
My name is William Alcoholic. You know, it's one thing about alcoholism, and as we read this, and you get a chance to see the beginning of what the alcoholism is still the same today as it was yesterday and before, you know. And some of the other things that they say, you know, we get a chance to reflect and see how they have evolved from the way they used to practical do it, you know. And today we on Zoom, you know what I mean? And the thing about what is intact is the infrastructure of Alcoholics Anonymous. You talk about the tradition, the concepts, and all that. It's the glue that hold it together, you know. But and as I go back and see the what they did, the PR they did by putting this book together, wow, it withstand the time, withstand the time or whatever we were going through with the process, you know. But as they began to lead these books with different people, professional people, a doctor, lawyer, anybody, the family, anybody I would say it like this: every place that alcoholic went, they left a book there so people could begin to understand alcoholism, you know. And I definitely identify with it the same way it was in 1939 and stuff, you know. And so I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to be here and sober enough and cleared up enough just to thank God for the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, because I tried. You know, I'm a Vietnam veteran, you know, I had all kind of, I accepted outside help, but nothing ever worked. And as I began to go through this, I began to see why. Because my pride, my ego, my fears, and all of that, you know. It wasn't until I came in here, and like they said, you know, I began to hear other alcoholics share their experience, strength, and hope. So it sort of opened me up to listen to what they had to say. Yeah. So with that said, and stuff like that, you know, and then during this time, they didn't have the tradition, they didn't have the service or committees that they have today to go out there and look, you know. I came in right at the time when people used to run behind alcoholics now. Now, whenever they have a problem, the judges, we get a lot of people from courts. We get a lot of people from institutional. We get a lot of people coming from all different from institutional. So that course today, you know what I mean? It took all that pressure off us, so I won't give Alcoholics Anonymous a black eye, you know, because I tell you, I struggled in the beginning, and I thank God it's a day at a time program, you know, that I could get a reprieve, you know. So I wouldn't want to do anything that's going to hinder the next alcoholic from being able to, as they say, be happy and free, you know, with his life and stuff, you know. And I don't want to do anything, and on the other hand, I will do anything to help to make sickness of an alcoholic to get there. So definite reading it just opened my mind up to a lot that I read in the book, and a lot that by doing service, I see how the infrastructure operates today. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Grandpa Dill, come on in.
Donald Alcoholic. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the difference of times and everything that they were talking about in there. I rarely see anybody taking anybody in their own home, let alone let them smoke in their house anymore. And I had something I was going to say, and I lost my train of thought, and I can't think. I'll come back to me, please.
Okey-doke.
Sorry.
Hi, Xavier. Welcome.
Hey, Xavier. Sorry, I got my work thing on. Xavier Alcoholic. Recovered alcoholic. I'll just say that. All right, so I'm going through chapter 5 of the sponsee right now. My favorite chapter, and I really like the exact instructions, and I get so much out of it. I struggle, and I cannot wait to talk to my sponsor about this chapter because I do struggle with it. So I'll give you an example. Really can't wait to talk to my sponsor about it. So what I struggle with is I'm trying to learn that different chapters might be presented different ways. Because I take things out of face value, but it's good for me to get in the book and learn on my own. So when I hear things like their exact instructions in the book, not necessarily true, and I'll prove it. If we look at just our reading, and this is a quick chat GPT, we have 11 Mays and if you look at the word may, that's implied maybe, maybe not. So it's definitely not an exact instruction. We only have 4 musts. We have 2 shoulds. We have 1 might, 1 sometimes, 1 occasionally, and 1 never. So my point is, if I'm a newbie, what the heck am I supposed to do with this? When I read all these things about all these different potential may, might, never, should material. And what I'm attempting to learn to accept is these are just practical experiences that they're teaching when they're helping people get sober. And they're literally just speaking from experience, and it's not anything more complex than that. And maybe I'm looking for something that simply isn't there. And the other thing I'm learning is when it comes to reading this book, I think, at least for myself, it's incredibly important that I just get in the book, study it, work with my sponsor, and take what people say about the book with a grain of salt, because their interpretation might not be the same as my interpretation. And I think a mistake I've made in the past is I've allowed myself to really take at face value people's interpretation of what the book says as if it's actually real. And what I'm learning is that's simply not the case. And the only way I know that is by actually getting in the book and studying it. So it's interesting. And I think a lot of my frustration stems from all those years where I didn't read the big book and I didn't work with a sponsor and I thought I knew it was in the book. And what I'm realizing now is that's not the case. So lastly, yeah, I mean, I look at the words, and I won't go on and on, but just quickly, you may have to drop him. If he's not interested in your solution, if he expects you to act as a banker for his financial difficulties, etc., you may have to drop him. So what does that actually mean? So I think these are more just practical examples, not exact instructions. But there is he must decide for himself whether he wants to go on. He should not be prodded. So it's a should, so we don't really know. He may do after he gets hurt some more. You may have to drop him, etc. So I don't know if anyone can appreciate this, but this definitely isn't chapter 5. These are not instructions. I'm not learning inventory. I'm not learning how to turn my will and my life over to God. I got a bunch of mights and mays and shoulds, and it drives me crazy. But I will talk to my sponsor about it. So that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Xavier. Good to see you. Hi, Jay. Come on in.
So, I just wanted to say I appreciated this reading. At the end of 95, where it says like, if he thinks he could do a good job, and on the other way. So, like when I first started with AA, when people was complaining about my drinking, I was like, oh, I'll just stop before I started coming to AA. And then I realized that, I couldn't do it on my own. So I'm just happy for the program. And it's very encouraging that I know I can get help and recover without drinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks for being here and thanks for helping out tonight. Hi, Gemma.
I'm not alcoholic. Thank you, Toe Tip and Pickle Trish. I thought Larry was in front of me, so I was meditating. I too kind of struggle with the big book in a couple of ways, only because I read it and I kind of take it to mean what it says, and that if we're truly working this program, we do what it says. And so I go to meetings and I think, oh my God, all these people think this way too. And then I try to interact with them that way. And what I find is there's just a big room of a bunch of feral alcoholics that are doing the program about at their face value at different phases. And it's that expectation meets reality. So I kind of struggle with that part because everybody reads the book and interprets it differently. They get a little different slide out of it. Like somebody who grew up in like real fancy environments and a lot of money might take it a totally different way than me who grew up, on the streets and on a reservation. Now, the other part that I find interesting is how it's so inclusive that you don't really have to label everything. Like I don't have to label all of being mixed race and growing up in the freaking hood and the flats down on Beach, First Street and all these places. Like that's my identity. That's what I've always had to know because you have to, like in one neighborhood I got to walk a certain way and that's a different way in a different neighborhood. One neighborhood I got to have my eyes open, looking around and checking all my feelers because if you ain't freaking on your tiptoes, little tiptoe there, little toe tapping, if you ain't on your game, they sense that, right? And then another neighborhood you walk, you keep your wits about you, look down at the ground. You don't be checking nobody out. And when I bring in all my stuff, my defense mechanisms, my core training, my fight or flight, all that stuff, and I go to a meeting like right down the street, there's a fellowship and I go there. When I bring all that in, I gotta stop. I gotta like kind of like a dog shakes off a bath. I gotta shake all that off and I gotta exhale out all of what I think I know about life and I gotta let these people teach me. I gotta let them help me learn new ways to walk, talk, and chew gum because like I said, I read when I first started getting into the book, I was reading like you may have to remind the newly sober alcoholic, to not work 18-hour days. And I was like, oh my God, I can take breaks. Like I don't have to work 18 hours a day. Like I can slow down because if I'm doing it, I'm gonna do it with an ism. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna overdo it. I'm gonna do it 10 times more than you. Like I'm gonna run circles around the next guy. And it's like to read the book and then realize it's about teaching me how to see the world, not teaching me how to teach you to do what I want you to do. And if you just act right, and if you just show up right, and if you just walk right, you need to smile more, you need to shut up, or you need to, you know what I mean? Like, growing up in so many multicultural environments, Hispanic, Black, white, Italian, you know what, by the way, it's Italian Heritage Month, so we got all that going on. But thank you for letting me share. I'm just learning how to be whoever I really am, and I don't know who that is yet. I'm still a feral alcoholic.
Thank you, Gemma. Hi, Larry.
Hey, Trish. This chapter has, I know when I first got sober, I had a DUI that was pending on me at one time before, and I remember my counselor, psychiatrist. He was also my counselor. He showed up in court for me. He was there for me, and he was also a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and it meant a lot to me, for him, because it meant a lot to the court, actually, for him to tell how well I was doing and how I remember that, and then when as I have, when I got sober and I began to have other sponsees and different people that I knew, and some that I wasn't actually a sponsee of, but I was very close to. Maybe they would talk to me. They had maybe another sponsor, but he was, a working man, and I was a retired, and wasn't working. I remember I asked sometimes. I know that a court date was coming up, and I said, "Would you like somebody to go with you to court?" And you'd be surprised how well received some of those guys really were. Yeah, would you do that? And so I've done that. And when the book says, Good Samaritan, you don't do it half time. And when the word gets out that you will go to court, it just seems like I'm the guy that people call. Would you go to court with me? Now, I don't go to court unless I know they've been doing good and they've been coming and they've actually doing the program. Those are the guys I go to court with. I don't go to court with guys that come to meetings once every 3 weeks and get a paper signed or don't have a sponsor or whatever. I go to court with people that are doing the program, and because I feel that those are the ones that deserve my attention in the program to stand up for. But you have to be a good Samaritan all the time, and be ready. And I understand that when the book is read that way. I remember I went as far as Iowa, driven over 1,000 miles to go to court. And, I went to Florida one time to go to court because they couldn't drive. They had court pending that they couldn't drive their own car, show up to court for a DUI. And there was one guy I worked with not too long ago that was in a different thing. He was homeless, basically homeless. He lived in a trailer that was falling in on him, and not only but I got others to work with this guy to get him to in a better living situation. The problem that we had to begin with, his reason for not moving was he had a dog, and what was he going to do with this dog? And we got a lady and her husband that was temporarily going to take the dog for 6 months so that you could go to a halfway house so that he could live for 6 months so he could get on his feet and have a better job and get rolling and get his life on track. And his answer, after we put all the pieces together and presented it to him, his answer was, I'll slit the dog's throat rather than to let somebody else care for my dog. And I saw there that he wasn't ready to improve his life. And I'm not faulting him. This is an alcoholic. This is a guy that he's doing the program. He has a sponsor, and he is actually doing the steps. His sponsor is continuing to work with the steps, but he is not ready to improve his life. And so helping him out financially, I took him to the hospital to Knoxville three times, in fact, to doctors. Because all he has is a scooter, and I gave him some financial help because he wasn't working because he had been in an accident, and I'm not that's fine. He needed it. He needed some help, but when we put the pieces together and everybody found out that he wasn't ready to improve his life, he has income. He has a small job. And we saw that, when we gave him money, he spent it on buying dog food. And that's okay because that was what's important. But we know for a fact that what money he does have, he will buy his dog food. He'll take care of that dog, even if he goes without some food himself.
And when he gets tired enough in his living conditions, then maybe he'll be ready to be helped. He'll be ready to be helped in other ways. And we have to wait on that. We're just going to have to wait till he gets sick and tired of living in the condition that he's living in before we can help him any further. We can help him with the steps, but we can't help him get out of the way he's living. It's sad, but sometimes that's what you have to do in Alcoholics Anonymous. You have to back off, and you have to just let them live in the filthy conditions they're living in until they get tired of it. Even though you don't let loose of them from doing the steps and staying sober, if you can help them in that way. I'm Larry, and I'm an alcoholic.
Thank you, Larry. Hi, Jamie.
Good evening, family. My name's Jamie. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. So I absolutely love this chapter, and no, it's not giving specific instruction. I'm going to give you an example. If you have 6 children and you happen to be the parent of 6 different children, each one of those kids has their own personality that they develop as they grow up. And they basically develop those personalities based off of the behaviors of mom and dad. But each one of those children, while we might work with all of them in a general way, sometimes we work with those children in an individual way, and we critique the style in which we work with them. It's just a fact of life. So why wouldn't that be a fact of life in Alcoholics Anonymous as we work with others? This chapter may not be giving me spiritual or specific direction of saying, Jamie, you have to do this. Jamie, you have to do that. But what it is doing is it's giving me some guidelines to go along. The things that I might do. The possibilities. The things that I may do. These instructions are for me. They're not for me to give to the newcomer. I'm not sitting down working with a newcomer and going, well, let's go see what chapter 7 has to say about this and how I'm supposed to work with you. It's giving me the guidelines of how to take another alcoholic through the process of discovery, and help them discover if they truly are an alcoholic, to help them make the self-diagnosis of the only self-diagnosed disease in the world, alcoholism. That's my job, to help them discover. So what this chapter does is it allows us, if we follow the guidelines in it, it hopefully keeps us from becoming bad sponsors. Because there's a whole lot of bad sponsors out there in Alcoholics Anonymous. Sponsors that say, well, you got to do this, and you got to call me 3 times every day at these intervals, and you have to call me once a day, and you have to read this, and you have to write this. It doesn't give us any of that guideline here. None whatsoever. Those of you who sponsor, ask yourself a question. Do I live on self-will and self-propulsion? Did I live on that when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous? Do I still do that? Because the truth is, book studies are absolutely wonderful. And it's book studies like this where we grow and learn together and come to a different understanding than maybe what we've been carrying with us sometimes for years. But sometimes we want to act like a bunch of 2-year-olds and say, no, this is my way, it's the only way, and it's the only way that's right. And we wonder why people can't stay sober, or why people fight things all the time. This isn't telling me I have to do anything. It's just telling me giving me ideas of how to present the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the program of recovery, to someone who is sick and suffering. You know, it's all I have to do is present the information in the book and reconcile my personal experience with it. Anything else the newcomer doesn't need to be exposed to. And some of us who have been around for a long time, fortunately, we have a lot of experience. We have a lot of experience of making some good decisions and sometimes giving some good guidance. And we definitely have a lot of experience of making some very bad decisions and giving some very bad guidance. It's not my place to advise anyone of how to manage their lives, only to help them find a pathway to their God so that their lives can be manageable. I got a wonderful phone call for today for about 45 minutes from someone who I don't sponsor, who came to me to talk about a spiritual experience. And their question was, what if I never have a spiritual awakening? My first response to that is, what if questions are unanswerable? Because there's too many variables. And we will try and manipulate and con and project and manage the outcome, when all we have to do is have the experience. Whatever it is going on in our lives right now, good, bad, or indifferent, is an experience we're supposed to have. And my belief is simply this. As I go through each of the first 11 steps, I have a spiritual experience within each individual step in itself. And how do I know that? Because there's something that changes in me. There's a shift in thought and perception. There's mental goose flesh. There's goosebumps. There's those aha moments. It doesn't have to be a big lightning bolt or a burning bush. You know, I have the God of my experience, yet that God has never made a personal appearance to me. But my God talks to me through members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and especially through this book all the time. You know, and we have a tendency to pick up a few words and a few lines that are in an entire chapter or sections of the chapters, because each one of these chapters in our book is sectioned out for a specific purpose, for a specific direction, to have a specific outcome. But, you know, oftentimes we alcoholics, we have a tendency to play pastor, just like a pastor does, and takes a couple of verses out of the Bible and builds a sermon around it and misses the content of what the Bible happens to say because we've only taken a couple of passages. So I have to look at this in its entirety, not just a few words, not just a few sentences, and decide, oh, that's what it means. When I look at the entirety of everything that we studied tonight, what I learn is I learn a pathway for me, Jamie Santan, to be able to help another alcoholic, whoever it may be, find their pathway. Yes, there are things that I may do, things I may not do. There are things that I may speak much about, or I may speak very little about. You know, this isn't trying to blow up all the party balloons to be the same size and symmetrical when we tie the knot. Sometimes we have to critique things as we work differently with the different individuals. But if I say, no, this is the way I understand it, it's the only way I understand it, you know what's happened? I have become unteachable. And I lose the chance of experiencing any humility whatsoever if I become unteachable. Been around Alcoholics Anonymous a long time. And today, I am teachable, and I want to be teachable, and that's why I come to this big book study in particular. But if I just have an opinion rather than an experience, my opinion is like the body part that every human being has that's not worth a whole lot. But my experience can become invaluable in trying to help another alcoholic. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Brian, come on in.
Hi everyone, my name is Brian and I'm an alcoholic. A lot of what has been said tonight really reminded me of the first time I ever walked into an AA meeting. It was probably around 2016, 2017. I was drinking a lot, using other substances as well, out 4 nights a week. And I was living with my parents at the time, and they, obviously they were concerned. And so I told them, all right, I'll go to an AA meeting. Not because I really wanted to do it, looking back, but it was to appease them. And when I got there, there was about, maybe 3 or 4 people in the room. I was in my early 30s. They were all probably 50 to 60. So automatically I didn't identify, And this guy was standing up there speaking, and he's talking about how he would hide beers in his suit jackets and hide them in anywhere he could around the house. And I just remember sitting there the whole time thinking, oh, that's not me. I don't do that. And it was very judgmental, and it was very, a bit of a source of shame looking back that, that's how I looked at it, understanding everything I know today and now. But at the end of the day, though I wasn't hiding beers, I was still hiding my problem. I was hiding it from my parents. I was lying to them. Some nights I'd be out at the bar all night, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm sleeping at so-and-so's house, or I'm staying with this person. I wasn't. I was out drinking. But I didn't want them to worry, So in the same way, I was hiding it, my problem, so I could drink. The same way he was hiding those beers. But, I looked at his specific situation, and it just didn't apply to me. And because of that, I didn't try to get sober for probably another 4 years, seriously. And so a lot of what's been said just reminded me of that, just because, everyone's path is different. But I have also found that in this program, and what I think a lot of us go through, a lot of it is the same. The thought process is the same. The patterns are the same, from what I've seen. But yes, I mean, certain particulars are definitely very different. And I do think that, we do have to stay open and flexible. Just because I was very narrow-minded. I looked at that guy speaking, I looked around that room, and I was just like, this is not me. And it would be another 4 years of heavy, heavy drinking before I got to a point where I was ready to even think about trying to get sober. And so, that was kind of just really what I had to say, just kind of jogged that memory for me. But thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Glad you're here. Hi, Art.
Thank you.
Art, come on in.
He's taking a nap. Go with Linda.
He
Maybe
is.
he'll wake up.
Hi, Linda. Come on in.
Hi, my name is Linda. I'm an alcoholic, and I was just going to listen, but I did hear Jamie share something, and it's something that I wanted to also piggyback on too. It doesn't say anywhere that you have to do this and you have to do that. When you get a sponsor, your sponsor is not your mother and they're not your father. There's no reason why they should be dictating to you. And I've had sponsors like that. And I let them go too. You know, I don't need anyone to take care of me like I'm a little kid or something like that. And I was very young. A lot of these old women thought that that's what they had to do to me. And it really aggravated me because I was like in my 30s. I was in my 20s and my 30s. And it was like, I have kids. I already know how to take care of them. I really don't need you to tell me how to take care of them. And these were women that didn't have kids. The ones that had kids, I didn't have any problem listening to them. But the ones that didn't have kids, they had the most, they had the most opinion and trying to tell me how I need to do it better. And my sister pointed that out to me. She said, Linda, it's always going to be someone that hasn't walked the same boat as you that's going to tell you how to do it better. And she wasn't even in AA, you know, and I ran upon that. You know, I ran upon one sponsor talk about shut up and listening to your sponsor. You don't tell me to shut up anything. That's not how you talk to people. You know, and somebody's, I don't know. Listen, if sometimes it can deter people. It can deter them. It shouldn't make them leave AA. I mean, yeah, I've had people say some really nasty things to me, but it didn't make me leave AA. But it sure gave me a really bad taste in my mouth about sponsorship. And for a long time, couple of years, I didn't have a sponsor. I'll be dead honest. I did not have a sponsor. I had a sponsor that took my fourth step and put it out there, you know, because she couldn't manipulate me and do what I wouldn't do what she wanted me to do. So I guess she figured she'd blackmail me and scared me. And I was like 4 years sober, and I wasn't too far removed. So I was gonna smash her. I really was. I was gonna put hands on her. And the person that I was with was like, "No, you're not." Thank God he had more recovery than me. He was like, "No, you're not." You know, he said, "We're gonna get on our hands and knees and pray for this nut." You know, and it's just a lot of situations I've had with sponsors. And I don't know, maybe my discretion was poor, but some of these people were a piece of work, a piece of work, you know. Some of them have died. Some of them, I don't see them in the rooms no more. Some of them are still around, you know, but I don't want my recovery and the way that I sponsor people to be in a dictatorship, to be mean, to be hostile, to be bossing them around, to manipulate them. I had one lady try to get me in a Ponzi scheme. You know, some are sicker than others, you know? And one lady pointed out to me, she said, well, what do you expect? You're in a room full of alcoholics. She said, and some of us need more than AA, which is very true. You know, it's very true. That myself is included in that too. You know, I'm not trying to take anybody's inventory, but myself is included in that too. But took me a long time. Took me like maybe 25 years before I started sponsoring people. And I didn't really sponsor people. I would just help women. I would call them more, have their numbers, take them to meetings, go with them to meetings, situations they had. I'd help them. Oh, I've been through that. I can help you, this, that, the other. You know, one lady, she was getting ready to face eviction, and I went with her to court. I said, you don't have to be scared. I said, you're not going to lose your place. I said, you don't have to be scared. And I went with her. You know, and it was because of, you know, the drinking and the drugging. She's about to lose her apartment, you know, and she didn't deserve that. She had kids. And I said, I understand where you're coming from. I will help you. And I helped her. And I went with her all the way to the Bronx, to the court, you know, and she did what she needed to do to go to the charitable organizations that I told her about. I did a search, you know, and I said, no, there's organizations that will help you. So she didn't lose her place. When she see me now, she gives me hugs. You know, and there's been people that have helped me. There was a woman that would call me and we read acceptance in the big book when my daughter was going through her operations. You know, and her oxygen saturation level was at 15. Normally, it should be 100. That's for healthy people. But if you're near death, it's like 15 or 10, like what hers was. You know, and I've had support of people in the rooms. You know, and there was one lady that I held on to. I didn't want to tell her, I didn't want to say, well, you're my sponsor. Because I figured we'll go down that rabbit hole with, you know, all them other sponsors, but she helped me a lot. She helped me this program a lot, and they say if you sponsor yourself, you're sponsoring a fool. But if you have some really bad situations like I've had with sponsors, it's not that you don't know where to turn, but you're not going to trust people. You're not going to be so quick to trust people. It's like, damn, is it a sign on my back? All day sucker? Is that sign on my back, an invisible sign on my back? I don't know. But I just had to learn. I had to learn. I'm not going to say toughen up, but I had to learn. I'm in a room full of alcoholics. Some of us are utilizing our program and working the program and living the steps, the principles. Some of us are not, Some of us are not, and I sponsored someone. I was listening to what Jamie was saying. I don't tell her, you got to call me every day. We better do this stuff. I do not dictate to this lady. This lady's in her 50s. She has a law degree. She has her own business. Why am I going to dictate to this lady anything? I'm just going to share my experience, strength, and hope. And I'm going to be there for her if she feels like drinking again. And she's went through some rough times, and I said, no, you're not going to give up on yourself, and you're not a bad, terrible person. And let us love you until you can love yourself. I told her about the step meeting that I go to on Sundays, and she told me, she said, you know what? She said, a lot of things are coming into place now that I've been going to this step workshop. I said, why do you think that I go to it every Sunday? And it's been almost a year that I've went to it. And I noticed my relations with people are better. How I deal with things are better. My coping skills are better. My thinking is a lot better. It's more clearer. And that's what the steps can do for you. This is a God-given program. It's a very spiritual program. And you have to put all in. You have to put all in. You can't be one leg in, one leg out, thinking you're gonna use your own program in this program. It doesn't work like that. Does not work like that. And I know I'm not a perfect person. I can't say anything about anyone else. But just the way that I have been sponsored, I will never sponsor anyone like that. Never, ever, ever. If I got certain character defects that are so glaring, I don't need to sponsor anyone. And one lady pointed that out. She said, if you're a person that you have a lust issue to the extreme, if you're a liar and you're a thief to the extreme and you have not let it go, if you have extreme morbid jealousy to the extreme, she said, you're not ready to let it go. She said, you don't need to sponsor anyone. She said, you're just going to bring pain, suffering, and havoc in that person's life. And I have to understand that as an alcoholic. I have to understand this. You're playing with people's lives. You sponsoring people, you're doing crazy nonsense. You're playing with people's lives. Now, I didn't go back out and drink after that lady did that, but you have some people that will. And I always hear one lady say at a meeting, let's be careful what we say, because gossip hurts and sometimes kills. And this is a serious program. You can't play with people's lives. I'm here to help another sick and suffering alcoholic. I'm not here to harm them. And if I can't help you, then I don't need to say nothing. I say a prayer. God, if I can't help anyone, please don't let me hurt anyone. And there's a 10th step. And I can take my own inventory. And if I'm wrong and if I'm harsh, I can take a look at it. I'm not 100% right. It's not about me. It never was about me. It's about this program. It's about, clean house and help others. I forgot what the other one is, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Linda. Art, come on in.
My name is Art. I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And I'm going to try to make it short, but I have often said for newcomers, you're going to run into a lot of people that are very much willing to tell you what's in the book. But if you really want to know what's there, read it yourself. Because just like Xavier was talking about, what stands out to me and talks to my heart is not necessarily the same thing that's going to talk to you. And so I can tell you a lot of things that are in the book, as they relate to my experience. But that's my experience. You have to find your own experience with the pages of this book and with the instructions that are there. Early in my sobriety, I watched people and I observed other people a lot more than I talked about anything. And what I observed was that the guys that were sponsoring a lot of people, they didn't treat them all alike. Those that treated them all alike didn't have many people weren't sponsoring a lot of folks. But the ones that were really busy, if you will, sponsoring folks, were the ones that were able to discern what each one of those individuals needed. And if they needed a soft touch and an easy approach, that's what they gave them. If they needed a little more harsh and more direct directions, that's what they did for them. And I wanted, and it was my goal was to learn how to discern what each person that I'm sponsoring needs from the sponsor. Because it's not the same. I have been blessed with the opportunity to sponsor a lot of people in my time in Alcoholics Anonymous. Many of them stayed sober, but many of them didn't. And so I have developed the attitude that the measure of success with sponsorship is not whether the person you're sponsoring stayed sober. Got nothing to do with it. The measure of success is, did I stay sober through the whole process? And if I did, which I have up to now, then my effort at sponsorship has been successful. Because after all, that's why we do for others. Not only for what we do to help other people, but for what it does for my own sobriety. And if I can't stay sober, then I don't have a life. And a large part of the ability for me to stay sober is trying to help another alcoholic. But I have to understand that I can't treat everybody the same. Because some people need a little a kick in the ass sometimes. And some people need a little more gentle approach. And I think, at least in the beginning of my experience with sponsoring folks, is that I employed pretty much the same method of sponsorship as what I was sponsored. So how my sponsor sponsored me is how I sponsored other people. But then I began to realize that my sponsor was one of those that could discern what a person needs, and he would treat people accordingly and sponsor them and give them advice or give them the program in a different way, in a way that they could understand it and adopt it and believe it and live it. and not everybody responds to the same treatment. So, and that's another reason that the book doesn't get specific in telling us how to sponsor folks. You may be this, maybe that. You can do this. You may not want to do that. You may want to do this. It doesn't tell you specifically how to do it, because for every alcoholic that comes to the program, there's an approach that will work for them, and there's an approach that won't work for them. I've heard a lot of nightmarish stories about how people have been sponsored, and it's really heartbreaking. And they don't have a lot of folks that stay sober under their tutelage. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's necessary for me. My experience has been that I have to learn how to read what somebody else needs and be able to supply that without being dictatorial, without being harsh or mean, but to give them what they will respond to. So thank you.
Thank you, Art. Xavier.
Hey, Xavier, recovered alcoholic. So I just want to say really quick, this is one of those meetings where I'm leaving, where I've really learned so much. And, I've been sober from not only alcohol, but any mind-altering substances for over 5 years. But I feel like a preschooler right now because I've learned like a ton just in one meeting. And that happens sometimes. And I'm really grateful for the people in this meeting. I'm grateful for everyone's shows. And everyone's really open and honest and genuine opinions. And I'm grateful that just for self-centeredness, I'm grateful I live in a world where I have a lot to learn. And I have a lot to learn about the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that excites me, because that means that there's so much richness and so many concepts that I haven't even begun to scratch the surface yet. And then I get to go apply it to the real world. So that's all I got. On double dip. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Xavier. Kenny, your hand has been up and down and up and down and up and down. Did you want to jump in before we close out?
Good evening. My name is Kenny. I'm an alcoholic. I usually don't talk a lot. For reasons why I don't talk a lot is because I've been in and out of recovery for a few decades, and this is the longest I've ever been sober, If God allows me, which I know He will, and if I keep doing what you tell me to do and my sponsors, I'll make 6 years December 3rd. And for me, all them other times when I was in recovery, I didn't know how sick I was. I thought because I went to college, I thought because I looked a certain way, and that I just thought I didn't know how sick I was, and I kept doing stupid things and going back out. Now, this time around, I realized that back then I had a lot to say, and I was more of a parrot back then than I was in my own individual experience. So I learned to keep quiet and listen, unless it's something I experienced. And right now, I got a friend of mine. He asked me to sponsor him some years ago, and I tried, and I talked to my sponsor about it because it wasn't working out. He wanted me. He wanted to use me as his wife to show his wife that he was doing the right thing, and he wasn't. And he wanted me to baby him and pamper him, and I can't. When I see somebody trying to manipulate me, I'm not going to let them do it. So my sponsor told me just be his friend. And that's what I've been for the last few years. You know, I would text him every morning, like people text me. So I would have him meet me at a meeting if he felt like it, you know. And as each year went by, I gained another year, and he was constantly relapsing. But he would get sober long enough uh, to get a good job because he's very educated, you know. And well, he wanted me, you know, because on the weekend I go out to my mom's because my mom live alone and she's in her 80s, you know. And I go out there and I take care of her and do for her because she barely she she can't pull a shopping cart, so I do her shopping for her and you know the heavy work, you know. Everything else she can do, you know. Cook, clean, her apartment is very immaculate. Anyway, this particular guy wanted me to power ride with him, come to his house, take time off on the weekends, and run places with him. And I told him I don't do that, man. We can make meetings during the week, but on the weekend that's my mom, you know. You know, once in a while, yeah, because so sometimes I take a break because I'm worn out. But anyway, it wasn't working out, and I would text him every morning, and he'd stop calling. He wouldn't call me. I was like, okay, yo, I said, friendship goes two ways, you know. Anyway, he had relapse, and he was doing real bad, and he wasn't answering any of my texts. And one out of the blue, I get a text from him. He said, Kenny, I cut myself all up. I'm in the hospital, and you know, he didn't want to commit suicide. I think he just was crying out for help, and he wanted his wife to feel sorry for him because she must have talked about taking the baby and leaving him. So I was real. I was like, oh man, I let him down. I let him down. And then I thought about it, and I said, no, he just going through what he had to go through. Think about what you had to go through when you was going to the psych wards, backwards and forwards. That's just part of his process. So I didn't hear from him for a couple of months. Then all of a sudden, out the blue, I hear from him last week, and he has his wife call me, and I noticed that the last few times he had his wife call me because he's trying to use me to manipulate her that he's ready to do the right thing. So we're gonna call Kenny. Don't call Kenny. Everything's gonna be all right. Call Kenny. It's gonna be fine. You see, I'm gonna do what Kenny tells me to do. You know, I'm gonna hang out with Kenny. So when she called me, I said, where is he? And she said, he's sitting right there. He can hear you. I said, then he needs to come to the phone and talk to me. And he came to the phone. I said, how come you didn't call me? He said, because I felt embarrassed. I said, man, where did we first meet? He said, in rehab. I said, so what you got to be embarrassed about? I'm the same as you. I'm the same as you. I got other issues other than alcohol like you. I got a therapist and a psychiatrist just like you. I said the only difference is I have a sponsor and I have experience in AA and I pretty much do what people tell me to do. You know, I pretty much know that I, I was I can't function without the help of the steps and a higher power because I'll lapse into untreated alcohol and I end up drinking, smoking crack and killing myself. So I told him, you know, what he want from me. He said, I want your help. I said, then you got to do what I do. And he wasn't willing to do that. And he said, just tell me what to do now. I said, maybe you need to go to rehab again. He said, I don't want to lose my job. I said, then maybe you need to think about your situation. And he said, I'm going to go to the hospital. I said, that sounds like a good move. And I haven't heard from him since. And I've been texting him, praying for him every night. And I feel kind of bad because I don't know if I'm helping him the right way, you know? And I don't do good with sponsees. My other sponsee passed away. I couldn't make it to his funeral. Uh, I don't know if he died sober or not. I don't want to ask his son that because I don't think that's proper. And none of the people from his group made it to his funeral, and I feel bad about that. You know, but as a sponsor, I think I know how to help people because I have helped people. But it seemed like when somebody want me to be their sponsor, it doesn't work out. You know, it doesn't work out. I don't know. They think that just by hanging around me, they're gonna be all right, and they don't have to do any work, and it don't work that way. Thank you.
Thanks, Kenny. And I'm going to jump in real quick before Jamie comes in, or back in. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of the reading and then work forward. And it starts out, if he's not interested in your solution, if he expects you to only act as a banker, nursemaid, you may have to drop him. And then it says, don't be discouraged if your prospect doesn't respond at once. I've worked with several women over the years who sometimes we were just friends. Sometimes I heard from them. Sometimes I didn't hear from them. And a couple times I would have people say, you know, the book says if they're not responding, move on to somebody else. It's like, and, you know, I would talk to other people, but I would still talk to them when they called. And because I'm not going to give up on anybody. I'm going to keep reaching out. Maybe not daily, but once in a while. And I'm always going to take a call or a text if I get it. Because I don't want to be the person who doesn't respond and that's what sends them somebody back out. But, you know, if they don't respond at once, I'm planting a seed. Somebody else is going to water it. Somebody else is going to see it sprout. And then sometimes I get to be the one to add a little bit more water to it, and then I see the sprout starting. So I never know where along that journey my talking to them is going to help. They may be broken homeless. You might be able to help them get a job or give them a little financial assistance. I have loaned other people in the rooms money. Some have paid it back, some who haven't. But I will not loan out what I don't have or what I can't. I won't loan out something that I need. I will only loan it out if I can afford to not get it back. Because experience has told me I don't usually get it back. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And then moving on to perhaps you will want to take the man into your home for a few days. I have done that a few times in sobriety. And you know, the first time we took somebody into my house, it was one of my husband's coworkers. He wasn't in the program, but you know, he knew what we did. He had been to meetings with me, and he had a guy he worked with who needed a place to stay for a couple of weeks, and he called me up from work and said, "Do you mind?" And I said, "Absolutely not." Because he was helping to carry the message even though he wasn't the alcoholic. He knew that I could help him. He knew that it would be a safe place for this guy to stay. Just a couple of months ago I had somebody move in for a couple of weeks. And, you know, it was helping her. And it was an experience that I had. And, you know, I learned and grew from it. And then that paragraph that Steph read, parts of that really apply. It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep. If somebody's staying here and we're up talking late, I still have to get up and go to work the next day. If I get a phone call in the middle of the night and I answer it and I have work the next day, I still have to show up and go to work the next day. If somebody moves in, it may mean sharing my money, my home, what I have in my home, sharing my schedule, having my schedule disrupted. But you know, I know that's all a possibility before they come in here. Trips to police courts. I've gone to court with people. I had somebody ask me to be her sponsor once, and we worked really well together for about 6 months, and then the day after she went to court, I haven't heard from her since. Maybe that was my purpose. It kept me sober, and I planted seeds. But I've got to be willing to do this stuff for other people. And I'm not going to offer my house to somebody if it's somebody I don't know well, if it's somebody I don't trust, if it's somebody I'm just not comfortable with. And my son lives here too. I'm not going to open my house without my son knowing about it as well. I'm not going to say, hey, by the way, somebody should move in tomorrow. Because that's not fair to him. I have to take him and his life into account too. But if my phone rings, I'm going to answer it. If I hear it. Granted, if I'm sleeping, I don't always hear it. But I have to go back to that first sentence. Or the third or fourth sentence. Don't be discouraged if your prospect doesn't respond at once. Because the chances are, if I stay on call, if I'm on standby, and when they call, if I answer, doesn't matter what time of day or night, sooner or later they're going to respond. And they're going to find their way into these rooms. They're going to find their way into a sober life. And I've seen it happen. If I know they're drinking, I'm not going to call them on a daily basis. But I might reach out every couple of weeks, every month or so, just to see, are you ready yet? And I will inconvenience my life and my schedule if I know that it's going to help someone. And if I know I don't know that I'd do it forever, but if it's a temporary couple of week, couple of month thing, I'll do it if it's to help somebody else. But I've also got to take into account, I still have a job that I'm responsible for, that I have to be awake and alert to show up for. I still have someone else living in this house. I can't inconvenience them at the expense of having someone else move in if it's someone that they don't get along with, because I have to take that into consideration too, because that's the only fair thing. And Jamie, come on in.
Good evening, family. Jamie, still very grateful recovered alcoholic, and one of the things that I do love about this meeting is sometimes, with good reason, we extend it instead of just ending it. And it's because of things like what Trish just shared and what Art shared. And I want to touch just real quickly on the idea of, I can't chase anybody who doesn't want this program. There's two things I cannot give any other human being. That's the gift of desperation of a drowning man, and I cannot give them the gift of willingness. That's up to them to provide. And generally, that provision comes through the experience of pain, the painful experience of, man, I'm doing it again and it's not working. And that's what this part of this passage is talking about. We have to allow them to experience it. It is not my place to decide where someone else's bottom is. They have to find that bottom for themselves. That bottom could be anywhere from living behind a dumpster and grabbing Little Caesars out of it that has been thrown away. Or it can be, hey, I'm starting to get in trouble with alcohol. It's causing problems in my life. It's up for the individual to decide. I have lots of people who come through my life who only reach out in desperation, who, when they're not drinking, they don't want to hear anything about Alcoholics Anonymous. They don't want to hear anything about these pages. Does that keep me from reaching out? No. There's a difference between reaching out and chasing. And it's not my job to convince anybody else that they're an alcoholic. Again, it's only my job to show them the pathway. I have friends that, they'll get 30, 60, 90, go back out, get 30, 60, 90. And I am the guy that takes those drunken phone calls at 2 or 3 in the morning. And the reason for that is simply this. They may not understand a thing I'm saying or even remember the conversation. But here's what they will remember. Somebody cared enough to listen when they were in a deep emotional pain, and that is planting the seed. I have absolutely listened to other sponsors over the year chastise and ridicule a sponsee that has slipped and just literally verbally bludgeon them. It's not my place to do that. I have to remember where I came from. I have to remember that I got here with a broken soul. And these people have broken souls too. And the steps have given me a pathway to heal from that. What if we didn't have this chapter, working with others, in this book? What if we didn't have any guidelines? Do you think sponsorship would be very good in this program? Probably not. But it's kind of like driving the car. You know, when you're driving your car, if you're all over in the lanes and you're like this and you're a nervous wreck, it's because you're trying to look at your hood and keep your hood right in between the lane. But if you aim high in steering and look a mile down the road, your car will track perfectly and you'll stay perfectly in between the lanes. And that's what the recommendations and guidance from this chapter are. They're the guardrails to keep you in the lane. It's really simple. It's really, really simple. We just so often make it difficult on ourselves. I know several people, even ones in this room tonight, that say, I'll never be able to sponsor like that. How do you know if you don't try? How do you know if you don't use this chapter as an example? And when I'm working with a newcomer, I'm not taking them through this chapter. I'm taking them through the beginning of the book, the preface, the forewords, the doctor's opinion, Bill's story, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. The newcomer doesn't need this chapter until he's ready to start working with others. Night, brother, thank you. And I'll shut up because William wants to come back in. Definitely extended meeting tonight.
Hi, William.
This is a great meeting, man. I'm just so glad I'm here. And you know what? What's so great about it? We all are sober, man. So that's a blessing within itself, you know. And whenever I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was emotional wrecked, man. You know what I mean? I had did some things in life, you know. I had been some places in life, and I began to question that, you know. And slowly, as I continued to stay here and peel that onion, man, I began to get back some of those things that I had lost to alcoholism, you know. So for that, I'm grateful. You know? And what I like about this, right? What I like about the literature that we read it today, the big book and all that, you know, is that I read all the Bill literature. I don't put this one against that one against that one. So I went back to what we talk about today. Matter of fact, before I go and talk about the rest of the literature, whenever Bill talk about the maybe, somewhere along the line, and I truly believe I had it before I came back home when I was a kid coming up, because I didn't have the instinct, that sixth sense, you know. And some of that stuff is that if it's going to get me drunk, it's so emotional, because they told me, said that the alcohol was only 10%. The other was that emotional stuff that I was going through that I didn't know how to deal with right there, and that was the reason why I drank, you know. But that 10% will wipe out that 90% if I pick up a drink, you know. But like I was saying, you know, as Bill began to stay sober, he wrote other literature, you know, and you could see where he was sober. And I like what he wrote in the first step in the 12 and 12. They found out they had something so good. It is so good that he said we could help the potential alcoholic who have 2 cars in the garage, got a good job, he got this, all this materialistic stuff, if we share our experience, strength, and hope. Okay. Now, in that same book, the 12 and 12, in the third step, he says some stuff that's very pertinent to what we have today. And he used a lot of metaphor to drive his things home when he want to get up, to me anyway. He said, put on the shoe that fit your feet. Okay. What I look like walking down, now I wear a 10 and a half. What I look like trying to walk down the street in a 10 or a 9.5. So I can understand that. Understand that. And the next thing is so good about this, and everybody alluded to this, is the 12th step. Now that you got the program, and I have helped people who became millionaires. They stopped going to meetings. They call me and tell me something like this. They said, William, I'm chasing money like I was chasing alcoholism. I said, well, I'm still right here, Because maybe it wasn't meant for William to have all that materialistic stuff. Because when William had materialistic stuff, he gave it all away for another drink, So I'm not of that, but I let them, when they call me and say that, I let them know, So it's something that I have that the newcomer don't have, I have the steps in my life, and I don't try to keep, and I say it all the time, I don't make nobody hostage. That's God. I turn them over to God, you know what I mean? And I have people who haven't stayed sober. They still calls me. I answer my phone. But I'm like Bill. I don't give them the time that I used to give them whenever I was trying to work with them, trying to get them sober. I listen to what they got to say, and I make suggestions about if they ask me something about what's going on in their life. I make a suggestion. Whether they take it or not my problem. And most important thing, everybody I have worked with and ever been with always got something. I stay sober, and I continue to grow. Because I can look back at my life and see the growth in me by keeping coming, by keep coming here and stuff like that, So definitely this was a good meeting, and it wasn't worth extending because, everybody chimed in, and I agree. We all are sober. Whatever we did yesterday, we sober today. You know what I mean? And that's what's it, for me, that's what's it about. Continue to work this program. And like I said, I would give anything that I could give to help the next everything. And one thing this program taught me, and I don't always use it now, it taught me how to give. It's not the act of giving, it's how to give, And sometimes I get hurt whenever I have experience, like Tappan Toe said, if I can't give it, I don't give it away, Sometimes I get hurt because my ego may get in the way. Not only did it happen to me, it happened to Bill too. He said it in his story. He talked about the slippy that he put $5 in his hand. When the basket comes around, he dropped a dime in it, so it broke. There's no waste here. As long as I keep showing up and I stay sober, I learn what to do and what not to do. So thank you so much, and I'm so glad I stayed. Well, I was sleeping, ready to go to bed when I came on this. When I came on this meeting, I don't know. I gotta catch a plane Thursday, go out to California, man. I may have to shut y'all down, but I don't want to, But this is a good meeting. I'm glad everybody chimed in and said what they had to say, because I identify.
Thank you, William.
Thank you, William.
Jamie, take us out.
I will, and what I'm about to say will tie nicely into our closing reading. My sponsor gave me a piece of wisdom when I was newly sober, and I carry it with me today. Sobriety is a very strange commodity. We can't buy it, we can't sell it, and the only way to keep it is to give it away. And this chapter that we are in right now gives us the guidelines of how to give it away. The result is whether or not they get sober, we get to stay sober. What a blessing that is. And from page 164, our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. But obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is a great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Thank you, folks. Thanks for staying so late.
Thanks, Jamie. And we will go ahead and close out in our usual pickle people fashion. Since we're not all around the same table, we're around the same screen, to hold hands, we hold our hands up in the screen, and that's how we connect with each other as we pray out. So we'll take a moment of silence for those still suffering in and out of these rooms, and we'll follow that with the Lord's Prayer. So here's your moment. Thank you. And who brings us from shame to grace if we let him? Our Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in the heavens. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thanks for staying up with us, folks.